Hey y'all, I'm Nick.
And I'm John.
And welcome to Vulcan Art Technology Solutions. And this week, we're going to kind of recap the last videos y'all seen. Kind of with, our first impressions of, the equipment that we got. And, this week, we're going to start with the AnyCubic over here. So, stick around and, stand by.
See what we got.
All right, so John, what are your first thoughts on this monstrosity over here?
The first thoughts are, I'm gonna be honest, they came out better than I thought. You can kind of see, and if we get to close shots of them,
they can see them.
I've put them on a couple of those little minute shorts of kind of chronicling that progress. Mm-hmm. I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel. So I've seen the capacity, the capability of that detailed print, that 4K print with the AnyCubic Photon Mono 4K. I've seen it. So now when I look at some of my other prints, like this Spider-Man in particular, it's kind of rough. I sliced that one. I had some trouble slicing, but all things considered, it has the capacity. This is so detailed. This castle, and I've kind of messed with it a little bit. I kind of broke a couple pieces off because I was still learning in my process. But all things considered, your basics, I learned. So this is your out of the box print. It came out really nice. This is that one print that I think we've talked about it before. It's this is gonna be your first serotonin, dopamine. This is the print. This is so impressive.
The drug print is what some people call it.
So I actually noticed that it started bowing on the bottom, and I don't think that. I think it's been kind of sitting in the sun. It doesn't sit even anymore.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean.
So warpage.
Yeah, I've been kind of sitting them. They're by the windowsill. There's if you overcure. It cures with UV light as well. So if you've seen any of the other videos, I kind of explain how that works. It's the wavelength of the light, the screen that's on the bottom there that hits that and cures at that level. But then also afterwards, you want to wash it and then cure it again because, like we've said before, this resin in its base state is toxic.
Yeah.
So all things considered, if you take those safety precautions we talked about before. You can avoid things like chemical burns. You avoid respiratory irritations and things like that. But the biggest thing is just make sure you have gloves, respirator. Don't inhale it directly. Try to I have a purifier. Try to keep it out of your normal breathing air as much as possible. Because that kind of takes me into the next step of what I kind of experienced, and you may be curious about this. Is with our FDMs or with my FDM, I build an enclosure for it. Yeah. This one has it. It's all encased here.
So it's an enclosure in itself.
Yeah, it's an enclosure in itself, or so I kind of treated it.
Yeah.
It's not as secure as I thought. Right. Mm-hmm. Now the cool thing is that there is a sensor. When I lift this up, it will stop the print.
Oh, okay.
So it's hey, nope, halt.
There's a safety mechanism.
Yeah, so safety mechanism, which is nice. And there's a sticker that they say, please do not remove, because I'm pretty sure that's what it's reading. And if it doesn't see that at any point, it's okay, cut me off. Which is nice. I've noticed a couple things with my LCD screen on the bottom here. If I don't protect it, it's gonna scratch. And if you're working with a scratched lens on a camera, you're working with a scratched anything, and you're trying to imprint that image, it's not going to come out right.
Yeah, and we've seen multiple videos out there where people have actually bent, destroyed, distorted, or somehow mangled their particular screens and their printers. And that kind of leads me to the other thing. So you said you have some issues when you're slicing on this thing. How does that play out? Because I'm used to it in Prusa Slicer or Cura. I even made the mistake of trying the Creality Slicer. Word of the wise, don't do that.
Yeah. There's a lot of slicers, good and bad out there. So
yeah, mostly bad.
I stick to Prusa Slicer, but for this one, since I don't have a Prusa, I mean, I can put it in as a custom printer.
Yeah.
And I can try to treat it like an SLA or what is it, their SLS1.
Yeah.
I can try to treat it like that printer, but fundamentally, it still may have some compatibility issues. The biggest thing when I was looking at slicing, I tried several slicers because once I realized that Prusa wouldn't work, I took to Google. I was like, what should I look at? What should I download? What's free? What's out there?
Wouldn't it come on like a USB stick?
So yes, AnyCubic had some on their USB stick. I did not like it.
Okay.
It's the same thing with Cura, or not Cura, I'm sorry, with
Reality.
Reality, and they have their own on there. You can also use Cura for this. I mean, it's I'm pretty sure there's resin prints, and you can do tree supports and things like that. But for what I was looking for, most people on the internet were kind of advising lychee slicer, or I may be saying this wrong, a Chutulu box or something like that. I keep thinking Cthulhu, but that's not right. It's like Chutulu.
We may have to do, and speaking of that, with all the different slicers that we got, we just played the slicer bingo. Yeah. Doing the going down the alphabet of slicers here. That will eventually have to come to a head.
Yeah.
And we'll have to make a blog post about that, so you guys get an idea of what the slicers are out there. You see them all over all 3D and stuff like that. Yeah. But we'll have to make a blog post on that. So so was the bigger entry, which we've talked about that in the podcast, different or the learning curve a little bit more different than going with FDM, or do you think you should have started with the resin printer then gone to FDM?
I think the start of FDM helped me. In the sense that I understood, even though it was a new program for slicing, like, and we talk about slicing, and that's I know it's a big part of it because you're taking your code and you're creating. It's not a G code actually. It's a different type of file.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not writing it like G code at all. Because G code you're following a path, and for this one it's like layer 1, cure, layer 2. Cure, and then there's an endless tug of war going on with the print bed because it's going down. It's curing level 1 or layer 1, and then it has a tug of war where it needs to peel off of the bed, and that sticks to well, I guess it has to peel off of the tank, and then it sticks to the bed. I don't want to say bed for both; that would be confusing. So then it goes down. It does layer 2, and then another tug of war. So if at any point that your print bed at the top loses that tug of war, you've got a failed print. And speaking of which, that's actually what started my first Spider-Man. This is actually Spider-Man Mark II. The first Spider-Man failed. Yeah. And you know what? I have another print here that I learned another lesson with. You should hollow out your prints. I ran out of resin. And this print was supposed to be substantially bigger. I ran out. It was just a little astronaut sitting on the moon. This is a solid piece, and honestly, it's just as heavy as any of these other pieces. So for me, it's so much denser. I lost a lot of material here. So it's just word to the wise. Be careful. If you're looking at a few things, I advise looking up a couple hollowing videos. Maybe I can also assist with those things. Lychee Slicer actually has a wonderful hollowing. Like it's like they broke it down to a 3-step process.
If anything, we can do a YouTube tutorial on it and do a screen grab and go from there and actually kind of explain it.
Cool thing about it is that it's got a free and a pro.
Oh, okay.
Just like a lot.
So it's like freemium.
Yeah, the free gets you a lot of it gets you to your product. Like I've made these things, I didn't spend any money on it. But if you want the added detail or you want more customization, the pro version is a little bit better.
Now, if you're a slicer manufacturer out there, I'm going to touch on this real quick. I'm a big open source fan. I think it's a great idea. Make your stuff open source. You build a lot more credibility that way. A lot more people want to use your stuff if you're open source. If you're freemium, we get it, but make the freemium worth it. You got one of the companies out there, one of the best names in the brand right now, Prusa. That's giving away their Prusa slicer and giving the ability to attach to the printers. So, just think about that when you're doing that type of stuff. I'm a big open source fan. Free and open source. If you're going to do freemium, do it to your your customers that are with the government or your companies or something like that.
Yeah, and I've noticed that the ads are geared towards like here's where you can get models, or here's how you could upgrade your printer.
Okay,
and like it's when you're slicing, it's like, okay, so for Prusa, we're just sitting there like boom, and it's like, all right, percent. It's done. Your progress is
it's done. Like a toaster.
It's the same thing for the lychee slicer, and I think Cthulhu Box has the same thing. I didn't use that as much, but it's like that process is happening. But at the same time that process is happening, it's like here's an advertisement to like
entice you.
Yeah, it's trying to get you, and that's marketing. That's all that is. So
yeah, which that's understandable.
Yeah.
If that's the way they're paying for their product, then hey, they're paying for their stuff, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
The freemium
but
stuff.
It's still like all of most of the features are available.
Yeah.
But the ones that are like, I would like that, but I don't really need that.
Okay.
And that's where you get to pay for it. So it's like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Like 3D hollowing, you can technically just do 2D hollowing and just say I want 20% infill, and that's actually what I did for the castle. And once I did that, because it made sense. So there's a couple schools of thought there, but I can get away from the specific slicer because this next step with the supports is that it was kind of like falling up the stairs. It was like 1 step forward, 3 steps back.
Makes sense.
So I would get something to stick, but then halfway through it lost that tug of war, and it stuck, and it's on the bottom. It's just a pile of nothing. So what I learned is that you can do 2 things, and I'm pretty sure that I'm noticing this bowing a little bit because this was printed flat on the print bed. So when I peeled it, it may have still, because I told you before, I kind of was working on my curing process, and so it may not have been fully formed, and I peeled it off, and that's why it's kind of bowing.
Okay.
It could have also been that it's been sitting in sunlight too long, but it's like you think about those 2 things there. But because like when I'm saying that is, you shouldn't always print it flat. This one was printed at this angle, kind of like 45-degree angle, and I lost actually my bottom platform. This is actually supposed to be double the size, so I lost a little bit. So it lost that tug of war, but the supports, there was so many supports, and that's probably why you can see some layering or some layer shifting on the bottom back here, on the back here, is because it was trying to win back the print, and you can see where it calms down, it's flat, and then it starts shifting again. And then the next print, this is actually my most successful print. This one wasn't printed flat either. It was a different method. So instead of printed at an angle, I printed it, I printed it with extra supports on the bottom. So you can probably even see a whole bunch of dots on the bottom. So it raised that up. I was a little bit worried about that at first, but it's actually like you could break it off with the metal slider without even having to worry. So this one actually is really impressive how nice it came out, and the detail is even on down into the Colosseum, or this little moat area down here, past like the ramparts of the castle. So that was a really cool print in my mind, and that got me to the point where I understand the hollowing, I understand the angle I need to slice at, and the supports I need to bring, and at that point now it's like off to the races. It's what print can you fit to your print bed. So if we're talking first impressions, it's been like 2 weeks, if that. First impressions, I love it already. I don't like the smell of it, but you shouldn't be really smelling it much at all anyways. But
it's not scratching stuff.
Yeah, it's not the good. Please don't just inhale this. So whenever I get a whiff of it, I kind of open the window and start. I got the fan that's going to ventilate out. I have a whole nother ventilation system that I would like to set up for it. But all things considered, my detailed prints that I'm looking on a smaller scale are going to be on this resin printer. My bigger prints, I might go up a size of my nozzle on my my Ender or my the Chiron. Those are going to be more bigger items. They're made out of PETG. They're probably going to be more durable items and more like impact items.
Impact resistant. Yeah.
So
like ABS.
like that, I'm going to use this on my smaller scale for right now. But we were actually looking at something, and I've got 1,000,001 ideas now. Is like you don't have to just use the resin as the only material. There's people that are mixing things in and trying to test for
rigidity.
Yeah, seeing if they can make it stronger, making it more impact resistant. I haven't seen it. Like, he didn't make a successful test, but it's just the idea. Like, this whole process is chemically different than an FDM printer. Yeah. So it's just thinking about how can I use that process.
Yeah, you're printing with one, with a paste.
Yeah.
And this one you're kind of making a cake.
Well, I will say, all things considered, I make things a little bit more complicated because I dive a little bit deeper than maybe they want me to, but it was pretty much learning though. Yeah, it was pretty much plug and play though. Yeah. Like this thing, I just brought it to. I have a little table set up. I set it on the table, put the silicone mat down, and it's literally one plug, one switch. And the screen is pretty intuitive, asking you where to print. You don't have to actually mess with Z and Y, or sorry, you don't mess with X and Y. It's only Z. So like it simplifies a lot of that process and that like prep time to get a good print off your printer. However, you're not getting rid of your post-processing time. Some people are like, I'm not gonna have to post-process as much. Just tear off the supports. It's good to go. No, you need to cure it. Or sorry, you need to wash it right after you finish it, after you get it off the bed. And then you need to let it dry, and then you need to cure it. Okay?
Makes sense.
So it's not necessarily a quicker process. It's a less I'm peeling supports off with these pliers process.
Yeah, that is kind of a bonus.
Yeah, but it's still, depending on how you have your station set up. I didn't bring the wash and cure with me, but wash and cure is fantastic. It gives me both stations at once. I wash it for like 3-4 minutes, and then I'll take that bin off that's filled with isopropyl alcohol, and I'll put a little rotator on there and put these prints on, and it'll do the UV lights and hit it from all angles. So that's all in one station. It's right there next to the printer. It's beautiful to have those together, but you can make those yourself as well.
Yeah.
But that process afterwards, the capsule took like 10 to 12 hours around there. A little bit over 10. The Spider-Man took like 8 hours, and then the square took 2 hours, if that. So the post-processing time for each of these were a little bit different. Pretty close to each other. Yeah. But the time it takes to print is substantially longer than the time it takes to post-process, but it has to happen.
Yeah, exactly. One has to happen to the other.
Otherwise, it's still going to be toxic to the touch and to the smell. So
yeah,
but yeah, that's what we came out with. I still have a couple ideas. I have to clear off my print bed. I'm gonna get another one in another tank actually, just because I want to wash and then have it sit to the side while I start another one, so I don't have to wait for my bed to become available again. But yeah, I feel like I don't need to purchase like another linear rail. I don't need to purchase specifics.
The upgrades aren't required.
So like when we're thinking about the additive features for like enders or even some of the others. Yeah, it starts adding up. Yeah. This, I'm done. Now if I want to get a bigger one, it's not like I could just make this a bigger one. I have to get
that we were looking at today.
Yeah.
So we're kind of digging into that, and we found the ultimate resin printer that everybody wants. Formlabs, you guys are some evil people because you really want me to spend that money, but I'm trying to be good. I really am. So if I could afford it now, believe me, I'd put one on order probably in the next couple of weeks. I'm telling you.
Oh man, the fact that you need 2 people to pick it up. It's the size. It's bigger than my ender. Like that's crazy. If I could have resin prints like that level of detail of these resin prints,
but bigger scale.
At that scale.
Yeah, it makes my Ender 5 look tiny.
I would have decided that I don't need any other printer.
Exactly. So, you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, and that's crazy. And then we were looking at
maybe like your articulating prints, maybe.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. But like I was looking at it too. It's like what other materials can I print in? Like there's rubbery materials. There's conductive materials. It's just as it has just as many materials, maybe a little bit less than FDM printing, because it doesn't have those specialized ones like HIPS and ABS. But there are things that kind of mimic those properties, and you can kind of try to work with that. But on this scale, this is more for miniatures and models and figurines. I'd say.
The Formlabs guys, those are more commercial and medical grade. We saw a picture earlier that they printed an entire human femur bone, and the entire human skull.
Yeah.
So that's stuff that is just absolutely insane. That and the picture that they posted that they have on their website, actually on their blog, of of the raptor head.
Oh, the raptor head was so detailed. You could see the scales in his skin. Like you could see, oh man, you could really tell that raptor was high quality.
Yeah, definitely. Check them out.
Yeah.
Adam Savage tested. He has one a couple years ago. Did the video, and he's doing some interesting stuff with it. So check them out. Shameless plug for them. Free plug. If you want to send us one, be fine with it. But
yeah, I'm not complaining.
We won't complain, but I just like to give credit where credit is due. Yeah. If your product's awesome, I'm gonna let you know. And if it's not awesome, well, we're gonna let you know too.
Yeah.
Believe me, I have some choice words for creality when it's my turn. So believe me.
Oh yeah. Because we got yours now.
I got the short end of the stick.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that
Adventurous.
It was interesting.
Yeah, so we'll cover that next. So I think if
that's all, like that. I still have more things I'm going to experiment with. So,
yeah,
but
we'll
first,
definitely check back in with that.
Yeah, first impressions. I'm actually blown away. And I'm like curious to see how much more I can do, because that castle was my torture test, and I see so much detail that I'm astounded, and the level of like the dimensions there's still gaps of like nanometers at the top. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep playing with this guy. So it's a good purchase.
All right, guys. Stick around a little bit. We'll see y'all next time. This is definitely not going to be our first foray into this type of conversation. So stick around and keep learning, and we'll see y'all later. Are we cutting this one?
How long is that?
21 minutes.
Okay. I'll cut it a bit.
No,